Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jose Adorno, and today we'll be talking about the Northstar implementation for agencies. Very excited to be talking about this. We'll go a little bit more in detail as to what we've been working on with this. But this is the first year. Well, last year we were seeing. We started digitally first, and I started to meet a lot of people that I met online because we were doing everything remote still when we started with Digital ATN. And one of the common things that came up was that I'm a real boy, I'm a real person, right? We've been meeting. I had an opportunity to meet some people at the agency, at Case, and all that. And it's very nice to not just put a square face on people, but also to meet them in person and be able to interact. So one of the things that we are doing this year, and we started with last year, I've been visiting some agencies and things like that, based on need, and there's more engagement in that sense, so to speak. So I'm really excited that anyone that's meeting new today, that we'll have a chance to meet in person in one of the different events that we have here in Connecticut. For anyone that for anyone new, welcome to Adult Education. And I want to talk a little bit about myself. I'm the statewide digital learning coordinator at Digital ATN. Uh, Started in 2021 with the grant. I have over 10 years of experience in adult education, starting with the LACES data administrator and data entry. Previous to that, I was working with cars, and those that have been that far back might remember me from the data download sessions that were given. I was that person. Also, I have experience with proctoring with CASAS, an NEDP advisor assessor, as well as in working computer lab and supporting ESL and GED teachers and students uh, through technical support and digital literacy. And starting in 2020, we had the Google for Education, which was a huge piece due to the shutdown and everything that came with it. So it was one of the things that we really worked on through that, and skyrocketed with experience with it, um, with Google Classroom and Google Slides. Now, just a little bit more personal. I have two girls, two daughters, and one of my favorite programs, if not the favorite, is Excel and Google Sheets. So felt I just throw that out there. Um, okay, so today, in our agenda, there's four areas that we were trying to figure out how we were going to group this, right? And the first one is digital literacy. Even before we go into Northstar and the implementation plan, it's very important that we talk about digital literacy first and get an understanding as to what it is and what are we targeting when we're talking about digital literacy. And in this case with Northstar, but with anything that's going on. Uh, we're also going to talk a little bit about Northstar. We had a session that we shared in the Protrax description to watch it previously. If you haven't, it's okay. It'll help you understand a little bit better the context when we're talking about these things. But as with everything that Digital ATN offers, we offer tech support. So it's not just a session that you're attending. If you have questions, if you need to troubleshoot something with Northstar doesn't make sense, if you need a soundboard to see if the plan that you're trying to implement is going to work, you can reach out to Digital ATN. I'll be sharing that information along with the presentation, where you could schedule a session and we could attend, or you could attend with me, and we could discuss a little bit about what you're planning, what are the challenges in implementation. We're also going to be talking about smart gear. which is a play of words of two different acronyms, and we'll get to that when we get there. And then last but not least, the digital literacy plan. If you have any questions, you could put them in the chat. We'll pause it from time to time and take a look. But also, if you in that time, we could also unmute as well if anyone's having any issues. So for the objectives, first, we're going to define digital literacy. We're going to create a goal to implement Northstar at an agency level that aligns with both the SMART and GEAR acronyms. We might not go in detail as to how to create one, but I'll show you the different aspects from each one so you could frame your objective based off that. We're also going to use reports to identify student needs, classroom, and agency performance. We will be creating a frame through the plan to target how will you look at the reports. And through that phase, we're going to also adapt Northstar to be used for both staff and students in the classroom. Last but not least, we're going to use Northstar to measure outcomes from your digital literacy plan. So as we go throughout the plan, we're going to kind of see what's going to work out. After the session, we have a Northstar implementation plan example. We have the template that I'll show you today, and then I would email you one with that includes the example of how it would look like completed as well. And then we would also give tech support through that as well. Yes, we will be sharing the slides after the session. We're also doing the recording. So we'll do the recording. Recording might take a little longer, but we will share all that information and also how, to access it after as well. Oh, you're welcome, Catherine. So the first thing will be is what is digital literacy? What comes to mind when we talk about digital literacy? So we have here a Menti. You have a code. Let me send the link here as well. Post it in the chat. You could use your phone, open the camera, and when you scan over the QR code, it will prompt you it'll open on the phone so you could answer. We're looking at a word, if you could do that. You could also click on the link in the chat, and that will take you straight there. I'm just going to wait a minute before I switch screens so I could see what you guys have put in. But we're working on a word cloud, and we're going to see like interesting, like anything that's matching or repetition. The more it repeats, the bigger that word gets. Maybe if you put it now, let's see what everyone is answering. Okay, awesome. So what comes to mind when we talk about digital literacy? We have computers, searching, smart devices, technology, skills, typing, computer, which will go into computers as well, life skills, internet, proficient. Yeah, the proficiency in digital literacy, online, community, productivity. Oh, there's a new one. If I could find it. Mouse, probably it was. Awesome. So what's gonna happen is after the session is done, I will be adding this as our work cloud activity in the presentation as well. So we will have these also. Thank you everyone for participating. Go back to communicate. Give me 1 second. The bar is in the way. Okay, awesome. Here we go. So what is digital literacy? NDIA, which is the National Digital Inclusion Alliance, recommends the American Library Association's definition of digital literacy via their digital literacy task force. When you receive the link, you will click here and it'll take you to that page, and there's a lot of useful terminology, and different resources that they do with digital equity. And the definition goes, digital literacy is the ability to use information and communication technologies to find, evaluate, create, and communicate information, requiring both cognitive and technical skills. So the key thing here, and I'm trying to microbold here, is to find, evaluate, create, and communicate. We are looking at this in a way where you determine how the user is interacting through that technology, right? So when we are going into Northstar, when we're looking at any digital literacy tool, we're trying to figure out, or what you're trying to figure out is how do you frame technology to fit in one of these four categories when you're trying to find, evaluate, create, communicate information using these tools. What is Northstar? Northstar is a digital literacy program that assists learners in building digital skills to use across different devices and programs. These skills can be applied in daily life activities. The program also provides an array of resources that can support teachers and agencies when teaching digital skills to learners. Ideally, we will have a presentation on October 1st, but it wasn't a good idea to have a presentation on Sunday. A lot of people will not be attending on a Sunday talking about work. And the reason I'm saying October 1st is that will be the first year in which we have a statewide license to use Northstar. So Northstar is available for all agencies here, the agencies that opted in Connecticut, and they are able to use Northstar for staff and for students. Requirements. Northstar recommends a program for students that have a 211 CASAS reading score. This applies to Northstar Online Learning System, which is known as NSOL, and the lessons. Now, the 211 CASAS reading score, it's an equivalent to a fourth grade reading level. So when you go into the platform and work on the modules, that's how how they're narrating, how they're reading through it. Teachers could scaffold and break down that content through the different lessons that they have in Northstar, which we'll take a look. But it's just to keep in mind that 211 is geared to how they're writing it. And if you're working independently in the module, you will probably want to bridge some of those vocabulary and some of those skills before they go in independently. Another requirement is a pair of headphones or earbuds for the NSOL, and also access to a PC, a laptop, or a Chromebook. Please note that while tablets and smartphones may access Northstar, the modules and assessments may not score properly. So if you're looking right on the screen and I'm moving my mouse, if I am answering a question in the assessment, it's put in to say click on the menu button. So I'm looking at the menu button and I'm clicking on the menu button. But if you're on a smartphone, the screen size is so small that you may actually interact with that assessment, but because your finger is not as pointy as the mouse click, as the pointer, when you tap on it, they're going to tap on something else. It won't tell them per se that they did the answer wrong until they go up to the end. And then it's kind of difficult for them to say, well, I know I went through the steps. And reality is, because they have a wider range when they're tapping with their finger, you're not able to score properly when they're doing assessments. Northstar is working through to make mobile versions of it, but they have a list of different updates that they're working on, and there's no specific time frame as to when that happens because they just finished adding all the modules in Spanish. Does that mean if they use the touchscreen laptops that it may still not be accurate if they are not using a mouse? They can. There's a good question, Asmin. They can. It just depends on what it is. So if you're doing a Word document and they have you go into, oh, let's go to data, and if you're doing a right click tends to be an issue because it will require you to kind of press and hold, and the touchscreen is not capable of doing that. The assessments tend to be specific with some of the instructions. So it's not just, I know how to add a row, let's say in Excel, but there's multiple ways to add a row, and they are asking for like a specific way, then that might be a challenge. Not saying that it doesn't work. It's just, it's not compatible with especially with smaller screens. Hopefully that answered the question. So the digital literacy focus. Here we have three main areas. You have your essential computer skills, and you see the list of modules. You have the essential software skills, and you have using technology in daily life. These are the three areas that you will find in Northstar, which total to 15 modules. Now, the way I like to look at this is that for the essential computer skills, you're looking at how do you interact with the technology? You're focusing on the device, focusing if we go back, the basic computer skills, we're talking about the most, that if there's a touchscreen, which they do talk about touchscreen, you have the keyboard, internet basics, using email, they added these here, although these are like more software, but these are essential computer skills because for everything that you do, that's how you interact with digitally, right? You have Windows and Mac OS. Now, essential software skills would be what can you do with the technology? So you're looking at your Word, Google Docs, PowerPoint, like what are some of the things that you could create? And on the third one, how do you apply the technology in day-to-day activities? So this is more the application-based information literacy when you're trying to evaluate information, navigate more deeper than internet basics, which is more like identifying where do you put the address. But sorry, managing like telehealth appointments and that kind of thing. So this is like the applied version. You don't have to go in that order because reality is in digital education or digital literacy, students are at different locations. They have experience with different technology. So it's identifying where they are in order to get them to where they want to be. Now, just so you know, basic computer skills, internet basics, and using email are the three most common modules that are given, not just because it's at the beginning, but it's a lot where the students start and get familiar with the technology and the modules. And then as depends on what their career goals or personal goals, then that will determine how they're interacting with the rest of the resources. Now, you could type it in the chat or you could unmute. What are some devices that people use? Smartphones. Yes, that's one of the devices. Thank you. Computer, Chromebooks, cell phone, tablet, iPad, laptop. Yeah, good job, everyone. Right? The most common ones we have smartphone, or the ones that stay for the long run, right? So we have smartphones, laptops, handheld translators. I didn't know that These still existed. Yeah. Now you could have translators in on phones, but I remember you will have students and they will just type everything on the little translator and they'll get it they'll have it translated for them, right? But now we have Google Translate, which you could actually even talk to the phone and then it'll translate for you on the fly, which is nice. Then the laptops and the tablets. Thank you, everyone. So we have an activity right now, and it's called Can You Tell? And the instructions are this. Identify the device used in the video. Name the skill the user is using to interact with the device. And guess what is the activity? It's muted. There's no audio for it. So as soon as when you look at the screen and you see what's going on, you could put it in the chat. And then once the video ends, we'll talk about it a little bit. Here goes the first one. Yeah, so we have the mouse scrolling through a page. How to scroll, okay? So what do you think is the activity? So they're scrolling through a page. What do you think is something that that person is doing? Why would you scroll down a page? Searching with the mouse. Reading? Yeah, good job. Yes, good job. Okay, ready for number two? These might be tricky. Using a smartphone. How to scroll? Scrolling on cell phone, right? What would be the activity here? Here you kind of have a little Facebook shopping. Yep. Smartphone scrolling. Yeah. Scrolling through a page. Good job. Okay. TikTok. Trying to look for those trends going on. Using a website. Okay, last one. You would think this will get a little bit more difficult, right? Using using a mouse on a laptop, trackpad scrolling, using a touchpad, how to scroll using the touchpad, searching in the laptop, scroll using touchpad, laptop mouse scrolling. So I wanted to point this out because it's the first time I see someone um pointing this out. Searching in the laptop. How is this one different from the other two? The gestures, right? Looking at the gestures of the hand movement. We're not even looking at the device itself. We just know because we see part of it. It's more complex, right? We saw the typing. That was the key thing. That typing that kind of gave it out. So let's discuss what was the same between the videos and what was different between the videos. If you would like to unmute, you can. If you wanted to put in the chat, that's okay too. I'm looking down here because I have the chat in the bottom, so it's not in the way. They're all hardware items, right? We're looking at devices. Yeah, nice. Simple, moving the mouse, scrolling each video was more complex. Yes. So everything was scrolling, right? As we saw saying scrolling. Yeah, correct. Some have an actual mouse and some use the screen or the device itself. Yes. So different devices, yes. So thank you, everyone. Very important here. The things that stood out, there was specific vocabulary, and the vocabulary is tied to the activity that we were looking, right? It was scrolling, and all of them they were scrolling, but they didn't necessarily look exactly the same. It would change based on what was the device that you were interacting with. And we had all browsing. The reason why we knew they were browsing, like you guys pointed out throughout the videos, is that you see the scrolling, right? If you're reading, you're scrolling. If you're shopping, you're scrolling, and that kind of thing. So the next piece was associating key steps that are used to complete an activity. So we're looking at shopping, or we're looking at researching. They go through the same steps. And we know that because, oops, sorry, guys, there we go. And we know that because when we are working with technology, we understand how each technology works. We know how to interact with that. And then we see the similarities when using the different devices because you kind of have a swipe motion, but the technicalities are a little bit different. So if you're looking at a laptop, you could click, there's a way that you could click on the corner and then you kind of drag that way. But there's also the two-finger drag, which is not the same as the one-finger drag, right? So for all of us, we understand that. But for a student that has limitation on an experience with devices, that might not be a clear thing. So it's one of the things that when we're looking at when we're trying to implement technology in general, we need to understand what is their experience with the technology that they're I don't want to say exposed, that they engage with in digital literacy, and try to bridge that gap of, okay, you know how to scroll on a smartphone. Let me show you how you scroll on a computer, because every time a student comes into a new device, for them, it's like, okay, this is going to be, I have no idea what a computer is. This is going to be so stressful for me. I need to go and use that mouse that I can't even hold it properly because it's shaking too much because I can't hold it. And it's bridging that gap with what they already know and have them bring that over, kind of transfer that skill into that new device. So yes, it's different. Yes, it might not be as easy. Sometimes like they don't like to use the touchpad because they just don't understand where to tap on it. But giving them some context as to what they already know how to do can sometimes bridge that gap or just be what they need in order to make those connections. So the Northstar implementation plan. Before I start this, I want if you could write we're gonna do a 1, 2, 3. Number one, if you have used Northstar previously, including last year and years prior to that, have you used Northstar? It's been used in your agency. You know what I'm going to be talking about. That's number one. Number two, tip number two, if you started to use it last year, but you use it at a smaller scale, maybe it was one program, maybe it was one class, maybe you were just starting with the teachers and that kind of thing, because we started with the statewide license last year. So maybe you know a lot of agencies didn't implement it at the entire scope last year. And number three would be we looked at it or we know about it because it was mentioned. We didn't get a chance to jump in on it too much. We weren't ready. We're ready to do it. Today we're looking at what you're talking about so we can apply it and that kind of thing. Personally, three, agency two. Okay, we have a good range. We have a range of like different areas here. Thank you, everyone. I'm sorry about that. When we had access last year to Northstar, a lot of the agencies were like this. Those that were not using it at all. Okay, so we have a new tool that can do all these things, and it's something that we need to work on. Where do I start? And you're looking at all this, and I'm going to stop it at the perfect moment with the hands in the pockets, like, what now? Right? Right now. So today, what we're doing with the Northstar implementation plan is to kind of walk you through some of these questions and figuring out some of these areas that you see on the screen in order for you to start looking at it at ways that you could implement this effectively or with more purpose and more drive. And again, as I always say for each session, Digital ATDN is here to support you as you need and to walk you through even figuring out all these different areas. So the Northstar implementation plan. The plan gives you guidance with the following. Create a digital literacy goal. And some of you agencies already did this last year as part of the AD 244. To identify the features you would like to use at the agency. Address potential barriers with support strategies and services. And insights throughout the plan. I won't show you the plan yet. I will go through the slides first. But the plan is going to have everything that you see in the following, plus additional insights. In addition to that, I feel like I'm trying to sell something. In addition to that, you also have you will have a guide, an example of how you could write yours. So if you needed like that extra piece to support, then you will be able to see it that way too. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is writing your digital literacy goal. A well-written digital literacy goal follows two sets of criteria. One is the SMART goal criteria, and two is the GEAR guided principles. So we started with a whole SMART GEAR thing, which is tech with purpose. There's a backpack here, but one of the things that I'm probably getting this, I've been seeing this a lot with AI, is that they mentioned that Socrates was not a fan of writing because he was going to feel that people were going to not going to use their brain as much because they were going to write things down. They didn't have to memorize anymore. And it was a thing that was mentioned because, you know, writing is so essential right now for us. It helps us process the information. It helps us, it gives us a chance to go back to you know, what was said at a given time. And now there's even recording for that too, right? And that kind of thing. And it's a reliable tool and a skill that, because at the time it was so new and not that was going to change so much, it was difficult for, you know, to visualize it. But not having a SMART goal or having a purpose for that technology, which would be a low-tech strategy, let's say like pen and paper, pencil and paper, it's so useful today. The same thing applies to digital literacy. When we're looking at tools, the tool can only be as effective as long as it's meeting the goal that we're trying to reach. And sometimes with everything that was going on in 2020, in the next few years, there's so many resources out there that were nice and we're doing the job, but, you know, is that really aligned to what I need to do in order to get students to the next step? And this will just help you frame that a little bit more. So the first thing we have is SMART. We have specific, what will be accomplished, what actions will you take? Measurable, what data will measure the goal, how much and how well? Achievable, is the goal doable? Do you have the necessary skills and resources? Relevant, how does the goal align with broader goals? Why is the result important? And time bound, what is the time frame for accomplishing the goal? Now, I don't want to go in deep detail with SMART goal because that's something that's covered a lot, but it also takes a lot of time to just cover it. There's two things that I just wanted to point out with this. One, I put an example here. It still could get some work, but it'll give you an idea of like how you could frame it for Northstar. So adult learners will work for a minimum of 1 hour a week to improve in fundamental computer skills that are aligned to their personal and career goals. Learners will demonstrate proficiency by passing Northstar's basic computer skills assessment with an 80% score by the end of the semester. Now, we could be a little bit more specific with personal career goals, but that would really depend on what our approach is what program that we're working on, and that kind of thing. There's a list of different examples here on SMART goals across a variety of topics. I love this site as I was kind of researching a little bit on it because it gives you, this is very applicable for students. It gives you like a studying goal, right? They'll give you all the components and it'll give you a completed SMART goal. You have one for writing, and it goes, there's 15 different examples across a variety of topics. So even to help students build their own goals as they're getting ready for college and career, and that kind of thing, it's kind of a great spin to apply it for students so they could have the steps that they need in order for them to reach their goals. And then again, PS, these are a great way to have students with their personal college and career goals. I needed Tony the Tiger. Great, right there at the end. So here we're talking about gear. Gear was presented by EdTech at Royal Dedication during a Camp GPT, which it was over the summer, and it was talking about AI and how do you use AI. Their approach was so on target, like as to like the guiding principles, that it could be adapted. I mean, it could be applied to any piece of technology, right? So while the spirit of it is still the same, it's kind of we're kind of guiding it with using with the Northstar focus. So the first one is G for goals before tools. What is the SMART goal behind using the tool? How can the tools enhance learning while remaining aligned with the goals? So this takes us back into the SMART goal and how, what is our purpose with the tool? How does that tool help us reach that goal, right? Explore and have fun. What systems can you have in place to allow users to feel comfortable using the tool? How can you create a safe place to increase engagement with the tool? So here we are talking, we're seeing users in general at an agency level. We want to make sure that we focus on staff first. And then, of course, from staff, then we go into students as well. We want to make sure that we allow teachers to feel comfortable using the tool, and that time to, time to explore, how do you apply, how do you build on that safe environment for teachers in order for teachers to feel comfortable, so then the students could also engage and feel comfortable with the tool. Here we have avoid bugs, because it was camp GPT. They had a theme for that. But then here will be anticipate barriers and challenges. What challenges do you anticipate with the use of the tool with your staff and students? What resources or services can you create and provide to bridge digital equity and practices? And then last one, remember to buddy up. What team activities and strategies can you use with staff and learners to engage with the tech tools? How can you build a community around your use of this tool and apply human-centered principles in its implementation? If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat or mute. We are kind of working on kind of like that frame in order to look at the different pieces. But if you have questions, feel free to put it in the chat. I keep looking at the chat in case there's a question. But if I don't pause, I am checking the chat. So yes, feel free to put anything. I can't see any hands up. So just in case you're raising your hand, I can't see it, which is why I'm referring to looking at the or just unmuting, interrupt. It's okay to interrupt. So the first thing, who are the Northstar admins for your agency? Northstar recommends a minimum of 2 admins per agency. Northstar admins have access to create staff accounts and edit the location information from your agency. So that's like agency name, address, etc. All that's already done. So it's just letting you know that they just have access to it. If it happens that you don't know or you don't have access, or you just need to find out who they are and all that kind of thing, any of those questions, let me know. I'll share my email at the end, and I could take a look for you. I could see who has access. If you need to change access because that person's no longer there, I could do that. So just you could reach out to me, and I'll be able to work that out with you. Which is why this is like the first thing that we want to talk about. Will your agency offer proctored assessments? Proctored assessments are monitored assessments that are administered remotely or in person. A learner who passes this assessment, who passes an assessment, will obtain a certificate administered by the agency, indicating proficiency in the module. So in order to pass an assessment, you have to have an 80%. Only proctored assessments award the certificates. They also award a badge, but the badge needs to be activated from the student side. That is something that I could always go in with you. This is where like that getting started video would come in play, because then it gives you a little bit of that context. But again, it's something that I could always go back and there's a question how to access and that kind of thing I could show you. Who are the proctors in your agency? If you're offering proctored assessments, then you will need to have proctors, right? So a proctor is a staff designated to monitor students during proctored assessments and can award certificates. Students with certificates can also earn badges. It's like about a 15-minute training that they have to do for a proctor. You don't necessarily need to have multiple proctors. A proctor could be someone that's in the computer lab or in a room at a given time where they could just go in and take the assessment. A proctor you are able to administer proctored assessments remotely as well. So that's something that once we go into like the resources, I can show you what that is. And then again, those, in order to administer an assessment, you need to have a proctor or a staff member that completed a proctor training. Sorry. Will students take assessments on site? Will remote be an option for students to take assessments? And then you have the same question, but with proctor. Will students take proctored assessments on site? And will remote be an option for students to take proctored assessments? And this is more like configuring what type of training. So if you want to offer proctored assessments, then the proctor's assessments, they need to do the remote training. They have guidelines. If a student could just take assessments from home just to kind of practice, one of the things with assessments is that they're only able to take the same assessment twice in a day. So if they failed the first time and they took it again and they failed, they are not able to take that assessment until the next day. So it's just something to keep in mind. It's not that they're locked out forever. It's just that they're supposed to go back into the module and practice a little bit more before they retake it. Where and when will the learners use Northstar at the agency? So I included here a few examples, right? You could have computer lab on Mondays and Wednesdays from 12 to 3. A lot of agencies, some agencies don't have a computer lab, but they have a classroom and they have devices. So then they could have like laptops, for example, available in the same time frame, but it's just technically not a computer lab. You could have a lot of time during the ESL class, twice a week for 1 hour each session, or it could be, twice a week for a half hour each session. It could be integrated into the GED lessons as mini lessons through tech applications and online resources used in GED. So you're going into GED.com, and that would be a perfect example of presenting internet basics, which you're not really going into Northstar directly, but you're still covering information from the curriculum based off that, the address bar. One of the misconceptions is that agencies introducing digital literacy meant like they had to approach everything and add like all these new things to it. A lot of agencies and a lot of teachers were already using digital literacy. It's a matter of highlighting and going through the steps for each one, making sure that the students are following and could recreate the thing that they're being presented. Which approach will your agency use in implementing Northstar? So we have two main ways. You have the asynchronous, where learners work at their own pace, and the Northstar online learning. Learners can receive support for questions, next steps, and other maybe they have any tech issues. And the teacher instruction is optional. You have the synchronous. Oh, well, an example of asynchronous would be they're going to the computer lab. Oh, I'll go to the computer lab and they work independently, and there's someone there to support them if they have any questions. In this scenario, you need a 211 score, like for students, or maybe have some onboarding or a couple classes to kind of get them ready to be successful when they're working independently. The synchronous is where learners work during class time on a specific lesson or module following teacher recommendations and instructions. This can be combined with Northstar online learning. We'll see when we go in that there's a curriculum and there's a curriculum and lessons and scope and sequence and all these resources. You could have students just work on a specific lesson instead of having them work like entire modules, and then they'll give you some time to kind of engage with them with different resources. So if you're using ESL and you're doing Burlington English, you could take some of those concepts that you're teaching from Burlington English, that align with Northstar, and just go over it as you're modeling Burlington English, and then having students just practice. Oh, so what is the first thing that we do? Oh, we need to open the browser, click on the browser. What do we do next? And that kind of thing. That step narrating and having students engage in that, it's already applying digital literacy, right? Sorry. Select the minimum of 3 modules to be covered for the school year. The application and rate of completion of these modules will vary across and within your programs and your agency. There are 3 main factors to consider. You have the English language level, you have the digital skill level, and digital equity across the learner population. The challenge here is that you can have a student, it's very high in digital skill. They were probably IT from where they're coming from, but it's their language that's the barrier, right? But you also have that student, it's a GED student, they're almost ready to take their test, but the digital literacy is a little low because they don't have that much experience on working on a computer, just working on their cell phone. And then you also have the fact that not all of them have devices to work from home. So as you create these plans, knowing what their barriers are will help you understand how will you support them or provide those supporting services to get them to get them in building in their digital literacy. Sorry, I just drew a blank there for a second. And again, you have I just did another copy of the same of all the modules. You could go on this in order, but you could also approach these based on what the students' needs are. And again, you have the questions. How do you interact with technology? That's your essential computer skills. What can you do with the technology, which is your software? And how do you apply the technology in day-to-day activities? Sometimes starting here and things that they do, like if they use their mobile banking, Then from here, you could then refer back to essential computer skills. You could kind of bridge the two, or what things that they already do. You do have digital literacy. You do understand some of these concepts. You might not know the name, right? Or you might not know how to do it on this device, but you do this on this other device. Let's find out what are those, what is that? What are the ways that you do it here, and try to find how do you do what you're missing so you could do it here. This is the name of the Northstar resources that will be used for teachers to facilitate and differentiate instruction. So here we have a couple more questions. Here is where we're going to be going soon to the system, I promise. But here will be is where you're going to find out what resources you want the teachers to follow. So if you're looking at a scope and sequence, which is my recommendation to look at, that gives you a bird's eye view of everything that's offered in that module, with links to different lessons that you could get to. If that's the document, the go-to document, then at least that gives you that foundation to start working on, and then branch out if you're supporting from other resources that are not necessarily in Northstar, but it's better to use, let's say, for your ESL students. Just so you know, the modules are offered in Spanish. The last one they had, I think it was telemarket or informational literacy, information literacy. It's one of those two. Was the last one that they needed to translate. So the modules are in Spanish. They're working on the curriculum to make it in Spanish. They've been asked many times, and I've been present on other languages, but it depends on. They were talking about it depends on what's going on and what they're working on. So I don't know of any other languages being translated at the moment. And then here is, explain how the teacher will be using Northstar in the classroom. So you have a few points to consider here as well as you write it out. So here you have list of services and resources that will be offered to staff to support Northstar implementation in your agency. And this is very similar for the student side as well. So we talk about what initial training and support are you providing your staff to introduce Northstar? What resources found in Northstar will you request your staff to use? How will you ensure the use of the Northstar across programs? Where can staff reach out for assistance? What supporting systems are in place that offer support from both the administration and the different departments? And then shameless plug, be sure to include digital ATN's tech support in your list of services, right? And again, you'll receive the link for that too. Here is the same thing, but in the student side. I won't go over the questions, but again, it's kind of to think about it as you go. So I will go over the managing tabs, and from here we're going to go into the Northstar piece, the website. So looking at data, right? You have something that's called tags. Tags is optional. Well, it's a feature in Northstar, and it's optional because it doesn't require you to sign them, but it could be very useful when you're looking at data. So you could assign multiple tags per student to view data in different categories or contexts. So if you're doing a program tag, we're looking like if it's an ESL student, GD student, ABE student, right? If it's a teacher tag, if you want to have the last name of each teacher, just to kind of group by teacher and see digital literacy levels across teachers. You have site tags. So if you have multiple sites, you want to see how students compare those that are attending not attending the high school, but if your site one of your sites is the high school or you have adult ed classes, and you're grouping that there, but then you have also um, at the main center where you're having classes, or that are going to a different program which go to a specific site. If you have multiple cities that you service, then you have city tags. If you want to be more specific and have program level tags, so if you're looking at beginner ESL or intermediate ESL, and you just want to compare how I want to see how fast, but maybe how long are they staying there. And then you have service tags. Maybe you have services that you're offering students. You wanted to see if that has an impact with their using Northstar. Maybe you offer childcare, and that's in and you want to track those and see if offering childcare is allowing students to use more Northstar, let's say. And those are things that just a couple ways to way you could think about how you want to group it, that kind of thing. I know I promised I'm going to go Northstar, but I remember about proxy. There's an option for Northstar to offer, not to offer proxy hours, but to see hours that are outside from your agency time. So in order for students in order to record those hours, learners need to select whether they are at the agency or somewhere else each time each time they sign in to the Northstar online learning. Teachers and other related staff should model how and when learners should select from the options available. So basically, now, and I'll model that how it looks like. When you sign in and go to the modules, I'll ask you, are you at the agency or are you away from, or you're somewhere else? If they say they're at the agency, then it's going to count like in class time. So if you're having all students sign in during the time that you're during class time, then that is your in class time. That's part of the instructional time. But if you're giving a student an assignment, you want them to go and do lesson 1, 2, 3, let's say, from home, and they sign in remotely from home, you want them to say somewhere else, so then you could track how long they stay or how long they worked from home. The way Northstar works is that when you're going through the module, it's timing you, right? If you're idle and are not on the page and doing something else, it stops counting time. So then that student may be accrued 5 minutes. Maybe they clicked like the first couple and stopped and did something else. Then it stops accruing time. So you'll get 5 minutes. It's fairly accurate. Um, but if that student is continuing working on it and cycling through and clicking, so it's tracking. I don't say it's tracking clicks, but it's tracking the engagement that you're in that site. Let's jump into Northstar. Okay, you will not see it this way. My bad. 1 second. I thought it was gonna sign me out. It didn't. Okay, this works. Okay. I'm gonna show you first how it tracks how a student will go into proxy. And there's a couple things about proxy that I'll just mention it. I won't go into too much detail with it, but all students, when they go here on the top right, you'll have a Northstar online learning option. When you click on it, oh, there you go. See, it asked me to sign in. I knew that it was supposed to do that, but it didn't. Okay. So if I click login, go back here again. Oh, wait 1 second. Bear with me for a minute. You will not see all this. It's just I could go into the different agencies. But once you're signed in, Northstar Online Learning, and when you click on it, you get this question: where are you? Some Northstar locations like to track their learners' time spent doing Northstar activities. Right now, are you physically at the Northstar location? And then it gives you the name. Yes, if they're at the site. No, if they're somewhere else. So proxy, anything to proxy, if they're working from home, then you're looking at no. If they're at the building, you can mark it as yes. Question here is if they're in the computer lab and you're recording their time there, then if they say yes, it's fine. You're really already counting it because they're already there at the computer lab time. But if it's just open, they could go in and out as they please. Then it's a question of how you want to track that. The other thing is, if a student's spending 20 hours, 30 hours, 40 hours total, it's a consideration of knowing if you're putting in all those hours in to record. Ideally, you have them structured where students are kind of have like a path when they're working on in Northstar, but you don't have to worry with the student just opening it and leaving because it won't it records based on interaction. So if you're spending half hour without checking, then it won't spending half hour without checking, it won't show not you, the student, is spending half hour 30 minutes and then just left, it's not going to record the full 30 minutes because they need to interact with the modules. Let me go back. Any questions so far? I know I've been going on for quite a bit. If I see any questions, I'll pause and I'll talk about it. So we're gonna look at the resources. You have a list of different resources here, right? So when you sign in, you'll see this blue bar on top. You're gonna have the resources. Hopefully, I'm hoping that it's a big enough screen that you can see properly. I might zoom in a little bit more, so just to make it easier. One of the go-to documents is the Northstar curriculum, right? When you click on the Northstar curriculum, if you're this is one of the locations that you have to be signed in order to access the curriculum. But once you're in, you have all the modules here, right? Very similar to what how do you access these? But if I'm looking at basic computer skills, you're gonna have here, you can download all as a zip folder, which will include all these documents. But you also have the scope and sequence, right? This is that document that I was saying, this is your go-to. I recommend everyone to just go off of this and then work your way. You have access to the digital literacy standards. So it has links to most of what's in the curriculum already. You have the module. What are the skills practice in that module? So here, like turning on a device connected to the internet in order to complete a goal. You have Northstar digital literacy standards that are covered. So there's a total of 18. You have unit specific vocabulary, and you have the vocabulary words right here. This will be a great way to work with an a low ESL group that might not be ready to go into working independently in Northstar because it might be too advanced in reading level. You could grab these vocabulary words, and if they're using Burlington English or they're using any other EL Civics or it's Bull Valley. I forgot it's Bull Valley. They have like these readings. If you're having them access, then you could use some of these vocabulary words in order to build that vocabulary for when that student scoring a little bit higher, they're already familiar with the vocabulary. And if they're jumping into Northstar, they have some practice and they have been exposed with that vocabulary. Then you have here the lesson outline, which all the lessons are here. So you could click on any of these. So like mouse skills, mouse shapes, fixing typos, keyboard keys, and they'll open that lesson right there and it'll tell, and then it's more granular. You'll see what is the vocabulary, you see the concepts that are being covered and that kind of thing. So again, there's something that you take away from this, from the resources in the curriculum, the scope and sequence is that go-to document where like you'll see everything there. And you could do that like for each one. Going back into the resources page, we were talking about um the not proxy. We were talking about remote. If you go under other resources, you'll have remote learning and testing resources. So when you click here, you'll have access to like all the anything that has to do with remote instruction. And just so you know, the way that Northstar has it, you could access it multiple ways. It's just everything that it has to do with remote, it's all grouped in one place. So instead of going to different areas, go to other. Go with other and use other resources and go into remote learning. Oh, I went back up. My bad. Okay. Good question. So I was asked like, are we Northstar is advanced for a beginner ESL? You're looking at a ESL learner. You're looking at a intermediate, like a high beginner / intermediate ESL. Now, while Northstar might not be the go-to, like to have them work independently, there's still room to bring some of those vocabulary words and work through some of these resources into whatever you already have for like digital literacy. We have another program that we're piloting right now, which is Dark Curriculum, that goes in a more gradual, deep, and it'll go with all the way down from before using technology, taking into account that low level students, but it's still under, we're piloting it with about 10 agencies right now. So once we have that going and we get some of the results in and we could adapt it, we'll be incorporating that as well. But using some of the digital literacy resources, at least like from the scope and sequence for those vocabulary words and things, it'll help at least expose those students into getting familiar with that terminology. Is there a guide for students when they first start Northstar? In the videos, give me 1 second. Before I even walk you through it, let me make sure that I'm going to the right place. There you go. Okay. Under the resources, you're going to have the Northstar online learning. They have short videos that we added to our on-demand videos app as well, where you could access and share with students. So if you see here the Northstar video tutorials, and it might be too tiny, you're going down to where it says Northstar online learning for learners right here. And here it'll walk through a student needing Northstar online learning, how to get a NSL account, setting up your NSL account, how to use Northstar Online Learning, and tracking your progress. These are the videos of what students have, because the student will only have access to their assessment results and to the online modules. The teacher's going to be the one that's going to have access to the resources, reporting, and all that kind of in all those areas. The good thing about it is that these are YouTube videos, or they're housed in YouTube. So even if you have a slide with these videos and they're accessible for students, they could watch everything through through that area, and that's like the only thing that they need in order to be able to work. So if I click here, tracking your progress, it'll take you back, it'll take you down here, right? But you'll click here on YouTube and it'll just open a new page. And you could grab the link from up here. Were you guys able to hear that? I didn't even ask. Okay. I'm so sorry. I didn't even realize until after it has the caption. Um, one second.
Standard.
Can you hear it now?
A practice button means you have not finished the practice yet. Practice complete means you have. Click on Practice or Practice Complete to go to the lesson for that standard. Assessment history shows your assessment results and the certificates and badges you have earned. You can click in a row to see your result page for that assessment.
All the videos go in that pace. And after they even for the staff, I'm sorry, even for the staff, they go at that pace. And then with YouTube, you could like slow it down and that kind of thing too. I have a teacher who may not be able to attend the teacher's training session on Tuesday. If I register, yes, so both sessions will be recorded. This one is being recorded right now, and then the teacher one as well. We will be sharing information how we would access the recording and the documentation and all that stuff. Oh, you're welcome. What we've done in the past digitally is that we have everything housed in Canvas, and then you have access to all the resources of everything that we present. Northstar is having a in our survey that we're sharing, there's a question that's geared for on demand, and that's because we are moving Northstar as one of our on demand courses, where any teacher or any administrator could go in, do the course on demand, like asynchronously, and complete it. And then we'll have some live sessions like today where you could also access it, just to give more flexibility. with that. The getting started goes in detail like every single feature in Northstar, and it shows like how each one of them works. So I will include that as a slide, like I mentioned earlier. But a lot of these, if you're looking at what do you need like for this here, the Northstar manual has has step by step like how to access things. You have the video tutorials, which has everything that they like all their videos that they have posted, which are all like the one that you just watched. And it goes in detail like if you're an admin, if you're a teacher, if you're a learner, and if you're running reports and that kind of thing. And then you have the Northstar curriculum, which has like all the supplemental resource that you can use for the agency. Any questions that you guys have right now? Or anything that you want me to show you? I haven't showed you the plan yet, but sorry. Okay. So if any question comes up, I'll go to those. But here, this is I need to zoom this in a little bit. This is the Northstar implementation plan. Now, one of the things that you'll have access to here is that you would have the Northstar example, which I haven't linked yet. But when I share this out, you're gonna have a Northstar example, which will have all this completed as a this will be one. You could actually work off of that one and just change whatever you want to change to adapt it to what you have. And it covers what we covered in the presentation throughout the slides is implemented here, but it also gives you like more information. Like here for the admins, if you needed to know who your admins were, or you needed an additional admin account, you could go here, you could email me here, and then I could assist you with that. And then it just goes step by step, like that approach. Anything that you need assistance with as to like those areas or identifying the resource and that kind of thing, then it's something that Digital ATN could support you in implementing. We've done some tech support sessions with small group or with admins or with a few teachers, just to touch base at how to access some of these resources as well. So it doesn't just understand that it's not everything on your shoulders, but we're here to offer that support in providing, facilitating the rollout of Northstar at the agency or with the teacher. I've worked with those teachers. So there was a few teachers that were doing like small pilots in the class, or instead of a program was a classroom, and I was working with teachers like that as well. It's providing some guidance and support. Any questions that you have or anything that you would like for me to explore? Yes, Christina. You can I can actually show you. Sorry about that. Okay, let me go back to. So when you sign in, this is your main page, right? If you wanted to add someone as a proctor, The admin is the one that the Northstar admin, not like the administrator from the agency. Whoever has the admin rights in Northstar is the person that would be able to offer the proctor or activate the proctor feature for that staff. So in order to do that, you go into location info, you go to manage staff, and then you have here your proctor list. This is our test one site, so there's not a lot going on here. But you could go here and click. It will be in training, which is left here on purpose so you guys could see it. And it won't clear to blue full like this dark blue until that training is complete. Once that training is complete, then that person could do proctored assessments, and they can and then they could administer proctor assessments via the assessment tab. Do you have to take a test to become a proctor, like become certified? Oh yes. So it's a 15-minute training. It's not really an assessment. But once you do that training, you have the access, and then I mean, there's no proctoring sessions here yet, and because this account doesn't have a proctor on it, I won't be able to start one. But if you're a proctor, then it'll let you create a proctor session, and then students could join. There is a great video from Northstar, like through those videos that show you how a proctor administers his assessment, and it walks them through all the steps. I'm in admin, but can I go into student mode to show students what to do? Great question. So as an admin, there's one thing that you need to make sure that you have when you go to location info and manage staff. You have what is called the NSOL. I keep saying NSOL, but the NSOL access, right? Here, this is what's going to trigger access to the modules, to that online content. So if I activate, it's already activated for the account that I'm signed in right now. So if I go here under my name, Jose Adorno, you'll have Northstar Online Learning. That's NSOL. So you might have staff that have staff access or admin access, but not NSOL access. And then what that means is that they won't be able to see this option right here. They won't be able to see the modules, and they won't be able to model the students. So that would be my cue. Oh, you're welcome. Just make sure to go in here and make sure that this is on. The only thing that goes on by default is the staff when you add a new staff. For any admins that are Northstar admins that are here, you could import learners into here and mass enroll. I mean, not mass enroll, but you could add multiple learners here by using this CSV template. It's very it's right there, but there's no queue like you could click on it unless you have the mouse right on top. So when you do that, it'll create, it just says like first name, last name, email, and then you're able, if you're in Laces and you have the export from Laces, you just have a first name, last name, and their email address, and then you'll go in and can add multiple learners that way too. Everything that we were talking about manage tags is right here. So when you're under learners, you'll have manage tags. Oops. And then you have here all the different tags. And you can create as many as you like, and combine it, and then you can just assign student tabs that way too.
Jose, does that mean by creating tags, we could like divide it like by classes?
Yes.
Each tag would be like a class, and we assign the students using the tags to that class somehow.
Yes. So they don't have like a classroom enrollment. So then everything that you're using really is tags. And you just assign the tag to however you want to group them. So if you want to do the class, do them by program, you could do it that way. If you want to do it by program and teacher, you could do it that way. I mean, the more tags, it means that you're assigning them separate, but it depends on how you want to look at the data. And if it's something that you wanted to like explore further, and wanted like I don't want to say guidance, but like a few ideas, we could talk about it too.
Right, thank you.
You're welcome. What I'll do is that I will pause share and I would show you. I can't find the badge one is a little tricky because for the badge one, let me see if I could. There's one here. Let me see if I could go here. It won't show here. Anyone that has passed proctored assessments will have a badge option that you could that the student would activate to get the badge. And they use, if I'm not mistaken, it's Badger. So if anyone is looking into badges and they have students with a past proctored assessment, or when you get to that point when you have a past proctored assessment, you can reach out to me and I'll walk you through how to do it. You need to have it one pass in order to see the option to show. It'll be like right here, no badge earned, but it will show here and it'll say like students didn't claim the badge. Yes, you could use those badges for LinkedIn. I think I want to say that they use Badger, but the most common ones is either Badger or Credly. Those are like two big ones, and they have one of the two. But a student will go in. It's a matter of just showing them how to click it. They'll click it. They'll receive the badge. And then they could upload it to LinkedIn and all that kind of stuff. And then they get like a certificate too. If there are no additional questions, I'll hang out here for a couple of minutes. But feel free. Thank you very much for everyone coming in. I appreciate it. I will be sharing the tech support links with you guys. If you wanted to talk, if you have a specific question that you didn't want to talk about it at the public, in this public time. But thank you very much for everything. I appreciate it again. And I'll be sharing also a link for the survey.